All right, welcome to episode 40 of Winning with the Home Team. I'm Katrina.
And I'm Todd.
Episode 40. Wow, we are in the middle of soccer season. I think I mentioned last week the rain has been toying with us all throughout the season. But we finally got Saturday game day in. We have been playing makeup games up to our ears. And we finally got out there on Saturday and played, and man, it was so good. I'm really just so impressed, as I always am, with our coaches that come out and that give of their time. So this week, our Coach of the Week, sponsored by Exquisite Lawns, is none other than Derek Geyer. Derek, as many of the other coaches, he coaches, I think, 2 teams. He coaches a pre-K team, and he also coaches, he assists with an older team. And the thing that I love about Derek is like he's always asking, Katrina, how can I help? How can I help? How can I help? He's not only just there to help with whatever needs to be helped. And on a game day, Todd, you know that there are 1,000 things to do logistically. Yeah. But he's so good with the kids. He runs such an effective practice, whether that be with his little team bingo with the pre-K division, or if that's, if he's helping Zach assist with the older team. In fact, they had a double header. I think it was one day last week, and Zach was coaching one team, and that meant Derek had to coach the other team at the same time. And he did a great job. And shout out to Jessica, his wife. She is... she's fantastic. She is so kind. And, they're just salt of the earth kind of people. Yeah. So, Derek, thank you so much for playing soccer with us. It really is an honor that all 3 of your kids play soccer with us. If you are looking for landscaping and an irrigation company in the DFW, I can't say enough about Exquisite Lawns and Irrigation. I work with Derek, who is the owner, and he's just a solid guy. He's the guy that does our fields. With all the rain that has come in the past 7 days, he is very easy to talk to, very easy to work with. So if you're looking to change up your landscaping or irrigation problems, hit up Derek at exquisitelawns.com.
Which brings us to our player of the week this week, and that is Johnny Durkins of the Fireballs and his coach, Krista Gann. And Krista emailed us this week and said, you know what, Johnny will be forever known for his leadership skills. He's such an encourager every time on the field. Johnny, at the age that he is, still finds a way to lead his team, which is great. And so for his efforts this week, Johnny, you are our player of the week. In fact, you're our Lionheart player of the week. Lionheart is a great sponsor for this award. They're a tremendous organization that is housed here at Lake Church. They have been around for over 10 years now. Great child care organization. We can't say enough great things about them. Go check them out. A faith-based child care organization at lionheartkids.org.
All right. Well, this is episode 40.
Yeah. 2-part episode.
2-part episode. Yeah. We got a lot of stuff to say about the topic.
That's true.
So Todd, let's jump into it.
Yeah. So first of all, I apologize for my voice. I've been shouting for the Lord all night.
That or
there
allergies.
May be some drainage issues going on too because of allergies. But regardless, this is an important episode, Miss Katrina, because we're going to be talking about our youth sports model as it is in this country.
Ours, not the LCs.
No, the American youth sports model.
There you go.
And so as I say that, if you're scoring at home, what I would like for you to do is just think about, whether you have children or grandchildren or you're coaching, whatever it is, exposure to the American sports experience with youth sports. Think about that as we go through this, because what we're going to do is we're going to take the first part of this episode and we're going to discuss the American way of doing things, right? And then we're going to contrast that to another country.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, it's Norway. And we're going to talk about the way that the Norwegians do things. Okay. So, but to start out, if I were to ask you, and I know you've cheated a little bit because we share notes on podcasts, but how much money do we spend as Americans on youth sports?
Well, when I think about people who have refinanced their houses in order to play club sports, I mean, again, I have the notes, right?
Yeah.
But it's a tremendous amount of money just in sports alone.
Right.
Not housing, not food, not your general just electricity bill and water bill and all those things. But this is sports, youth sports alone, not even the professionals, not even the NBA or NFL or MLB. Yeah. This is just youth sports.
And it is to the tune of $19 billion with a B dollars annually, right? And
That's insane.
That is a large sum of money. So let me start. I'll just ask, why? Why do we spend so much money on youth sports, if you were to give a reason? Yeah,
I mean, I have tons of answers. And I also just want to start out by saying this. I don't necessarily, I'm not against playing at a higher level as far as AAU, all those things. So here is, and Colin has played and Cy has played, right? So here is say from the very start, like, we're not against playing at a higher level. I think that this conversation is just something to keep in mind as you continue to make decisions for your family.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to talk about what all goes into that $19 billion a year, and we'll start seeing some differences. But go ahead.
Yeah. What was your question again?
So why do we spend so much money?
Yeah, why do we spend so much money?
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think it's just to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
I think it's to keep up with what everyone else is doing around us. And I mean, we always want the bigger and better of whatever the Joneses are doing. So we're going to go find that.
Right. Yeah. So let's break that down a little bit, because I think you're right. I think it is, what are our neighbors doing? What are our classmates doing? But let's break down what all goes into that amount of money, right? Just for a family, let's not even talk about the teams themselves, but for a family, if you go to, let's say you're on a travel team or a select team, some of the costs that you incur are, well, number one, you have the fee to join the team.
Yeah.
Right. Which, depending on what team you're on, I mean, at the low end, you're talking about $1,000.
At the very, very, very bottom.
Yeah. For a season, right? And not even for a year, but for a season.
Yeah. And how long is a season?
I mean, it can be the spring season, it can be a summer season, a fall season.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're spending sometimes upwards of $3,000 or $4,000
out the gate.
Yeah, just to be on the team, right?
Yeah.
You've got.
Do you know what that reminds me of?
What's that?
Kind of the sorority and the fraternity model.
Oh yeah.
Where you have to pay to fit in. Yes, essentially.
That's exactly. You're buying into the
you're buying
program.
In. Yeah, you're buying in to play and for friends and
Yeah. So even just getting on the team, like, you're out thousands of dollars already, right? And then and compare that, by the way, to rec ball. And again, we are not saying that select ball, there's no place for it or anything like that. But as we get further into this conversation, you'll see where we're going with this. But compare that to rec ball, where you might pay $150, right? And you get a jersey, right? And anyway, so there's a tremendous amount of money just to buy in. But then think about the travels that you incur. I mean, if you're on a travel team that plays, Colin was on a team last year. I think their home travel field was in Melissa.
Their home.
Because I feel like all of their tournaments were in Melissa every weekend, except for the ones where we're really traveling.
Yeah.
Right. And so with that comes, okay, well, you're playing on Saturdays and Sundays.
Right.
And so there's gas involved in that. You can pack a lunch, but also on Sunday, you don't know how long you're going to be out there.
Mm-hmm.
You could be out there from morning till night. And so you're spending money on food as well. If you're getting hotels, you're spending money on hotels.
Yeah.
Right. For practices, you have field rentals. There's gate fees when you get to these games. Oh yeah, you paid $3,000 for your son to be on the team, but it's also $10 a person per day
Just to get in, just to
get
see
in
your
to
kid
watch
play.
your kid.
Yeah.
So anyway, not to mention some of those things go towards, paying coaches, but you also may have to throw in some money for field rentals for practices and things like that. I mean, there's just all these extra fees, right? That we've been to places where there's parking fees. Like you just never know it just adds up over time.
And did you mention tournament fees as well? Like to enter a tournament, I know for basketball, you have to pay a tournament fee. And sometimes those fees are included in joining a team, but sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's a typical path. And again, if you're joining us from home, kind of follow along with me, but I just jotted down like a typical path for the American kid playing youth sports, right? So let's say you spend $2,000 in club dues to join the team. And then you've got the tournament and the travel fees that are associated with that. Then there's the pressure to specialize in one sport that we've talked about before because you don't want to fall behind.
Yeah.
Because if you go play if you're an AAU kid playing basketball, but yet you go play baseball in the spring, by the time you get back to your basketball team, maybe these kids have passed you by, they're getting more playing time, and you feel like you're behind, right?
Well, and honestly, I mean, if you're gonna pay $2,000 for a sport, why would you? You want to be good at that sport is the mindset, right? So why would you try any other sports if you're putting all of your eggs, figuratively speaking, into one basket, and that just talks about just the sport specific model that we see.
Yeah.
That's the reason why.
And what if, let's say I do want to play let's say I want to play basketball and baseball, and I'm paying $2,000 for a baseball program, but then I'm also paying for the basketball program too, right? So there's potential for, like you said, we have parents that are taking out loans or refinancing their house so they can play. So you go down the list, the specialization in one sport. Then you have parents that question coach tactics. Yeah. Right.
Because you're paying money.
Yeah.
You want to make sure.
Right. I'm paying all this money and my kid is sitting on the bench on Sundays.
Yeah.
Like, what's he getting out of it?
Yeah.
So we go past what the sport itself is supposed to be teaching, and we get really fundamentally involved in coaching decisions.
Yeah.
Right. And then typically what happens is, okay, well, little Johnny is not playing as much as I want him to, or he got pushed to a different position than what I think he's good at. We'll go find another team. We'll go find another team and we'll play somewhere else, right? And so you get ultimately you get really intimately involved as a parent.
Yeah.
And that's when some of the issues between you and your kiddos start, right? So once you start coaching or questioning coaches' tactics, then you follow down the path. We've talked about this, but photos on Facebook. I'm going to post every time my kiddo wins a ring or wins a trophy or wins a tournament. All of these things, all of my photos are going to go on there, and we're going to reinforce to our children that, hey, winning, right? So we go down that road, and then you start talking about scholarships, right? And this could be a 7 or 8U player. And you're like, man, I think my kid's got it. And we start thinking about college scholarships. And then we start going to some of these showcase tournaments and things like that. Or we may travel to California or Florida to go play in a tournament, some of that stuff. And you're just, man, what if a scout sees my kid? Right. Scout's not looking for your kid at 7, right? No. But the American model is driven by two things. It's driven by money, right? Because hotels have to make their money, right? All of these fields have to be rented out. right? Coaches need to be paid because we do have people that is their job, right? It's driven by money and it's driven by ego. Sadly, it's not the kid's ego. Now it becomes the kid's ego at some point, but it starts out as a parent ego, right? And there can be baggage there that, again, self-inflicted, right? Like, this is where I started. You as a parent bring it in. I want my kid to be this. I want my kid to be that. And before you know it, you're thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into this. And then your kid, who was a beast at 8 years old, now has gone through puberty. Everyone else has caught him. And these kids that weren't playing very much are now suddenly better. And now they're playing. And your kid is sitting the bench, right? Yeah. And so we go through these prepubescent things where we're like, oh, no, this kid's got it.
Yeah.
You don't know what that kid's got. He may have a talent, but he also may not. And by the way, he may be burnt out by the time he gets to 13.
For sure.
So, did you know? Okay, so to go back, that is an American model that we have created. It is not a worldwide model, as we'll see in part 2 of this, but it is an American model. And that story that we just went through is indicative of so many families that are going through sports right now. Most kids in America, to the tune of over 67%, 2/3 of kids in America are done with sports by age 11.
That's crazy.
Done with sports by age 11, right? What does it create? Because we all know, I mean, you and I work in this industry, so we understand what sports has to offer for kids and adults, right? But when kids stop playing sports at age 11, and we'll go through the reasons why, but you have health issues there, right? Yeah. That it results in higher numbers of health issues, healthcare costs as a country skyrocket, because at age 11 we just throw our hands up and we say we're not good enough, we can't afford it, we're not competitive enough to go down that path, and then
we hand them a phone.
And then we hand them a phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about that. When you're talking about the phone aspect of it, what do you mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the phone is just so involved in all of life. But if we were to talk specifically about sports, I was talking to a 7th grade mom and dad, over the weekend, and they're in, the select ball arena. And the mom was just sharing with me about how, that it's a beast and it's a grind. And, she just shared with me how, she believes the way that these coaches are treating, her son and other boys on the team, is verbal abuse, and then, borderline emotional abuse. And, as we talked more about their situation, the kid was just so afraid that if he was to, move on or quit this team, and we're talking about like emotional and verbal abuse, like this kid is taking a licking from a coach, right? From someone that is supposed to be trusted, and build him up, both as a basketball player and also just as a human being, which sports is supposed to do, was tearing him down. And I mean, there's a difference in, coaching a kid, and even, yelling at a kid to do better, and then this type of abuse that he was taking. But when the mom said, "Okay, let's just be done. It's okay," and that's what I told her. I said, "Just be done." Right. Like, to me, it's this is an open and closed case. Like, why? Like, what is why are you continuing to think about this? Right. And she said, well, it all comes down to, what he's seeing on social media. Specifically on Instagram, he's seeing these videos and these reels about, kids who are in these high level tournaments, who are, supposedly, getting scouted. And I said, he's in 7th grade.
Right.
He's in 7th grade.
Yeah.
Like, he's fine. Just think about it. Like, do you want your kid to go through emotional abuse and likely do damage?
Right.
That could last, the rest of his, adolescent life, or do you just want to have him just take a break? Like, it's okay. Like, you can still get training. And that's when she stopped me and she said, yeah, but the training that he's getting, which is really good training, is tied to this team. And I said, okay, well, you have to make a decision.
Yeah.
Again, do you want him to go through this, what he's currently, he's fearful now. He doesn't play the way that he, that he enjoys, that he's free. There's just this constant cloud of fear over him. Or do you want him to continue to get good training? Like, come on, think about it.
Right.
Like, it's okay to quit a team. And believe me, I will never tell Taya to quit any sport. Right. But when it comes to, if this kid is getting verbally and emotionally abused, that's something completely different, right? Completely different.
Right.
And so, back to the phone situation, like, this all had to do with what he was seeing on social media. And he was measuring himself up to what he was seeing on social media. And we know the algorithms of social media will continue to feed you only things that are fear-based, and they'll continue just to show you videos in which you want to see those things, but then you look at yourself and say, well, I'm not at their level yet,
right.
Or I'm not going to those tournaments, or I'm not ranked in the top 100 of my class,
right.
And like, can we just talk about like the purpose of this podcast? Winning with the home team. Winning with the home team. This is not winning when it comes to sports.
Right.
Though we do love sports.
Yes.
This is winning with your home team. And as you go through youth sports, again, I'm not against select sports, but what I am against is making decisions that have the potential to damage your kids' self-image, not even self-image, but, what they think of themselves, how they're processing decisions. And again, this all comes back to the phone. I would highly encourage you to not give your kid a phone, at least until they are, 7th, 8th grade, which this kid was, right? I told Dean the other day, I don't know that Tay is getting a phone until like 9th or 10th grade. Granted, I don't know how that's going to play out, right? But, I see how kids, and if they do have a phone in the 7th and 8th grade, put some controls on there, put some limits on there. Don't give them social media. But all of this is within the lens of, kids measuring up to other kids. And when a kid is staring at their phone, looking at YouTube video after YouTube video, or Instagram reel after Instagram reel, or chat or Snapchat, or, TikTok or whatever else, like, you don't have the ability to process what they're seeing with them because you don't know what they're seeing. Right. I mean, it's a form of entertainment. Like, I mean, the phone is now what the TV was once to us, even like 5 years ago, right? We're not watching, kids are not watching the TV anymore. They're watching their phones.
Right.
And we can even talk about how, the phone and watching those videos, like, it changes the DNA of your brain. It changes the way that your brain is wired. And, the phone has such a huge component in our culture. And going back to winning with the home team, if you want to get a leg up on your home team, if you want to disciple them in a way where you're hands-on, the phone has got to be a major component of how your home life works.
Yeah, you're right on. There's two examples. One of which I knew I was going to bring up today, and one that I didn't until you started talking. And like you said, we are in favor of youth sports and what it brings to the table. And you mentioned coaching and being verbally abused, and there is a fine line
For sure.
There really is.
For
Because
sure.
one of the great things about sports, even youth sports, it teaches so many character-based issues. And some of that is perseverance. Some of that is learning how to fail and fall forward when you fail and things like that, which requires coaching. And it doesn't require someone who just stands on the sideline with their hands in their pockets.
Yeah.
But coaching can be done in a manner that is not verbally abusive.
Right.
That, like you said, it builds players, right? But when you brought up the whole aspect of the phones, it brought me back to within the last couple of weeks, I was at a baseball game, a youth baseball game, and I saw two dads that were comparing stats of their kids, and they were talking about, I think. I don't want to give it away, but they were talking about, comparing stats of their two kids and where they stand and, in relation to the other kids on the team. And I was like, man,
why? What is the purpose in that?
I don't know.
What is the purpose in that?
Yeah, I don't know. And
Who gives a rip?
At that age, those kids they're looking for identity, right?
Was this Size game or Collins game?
I don't need to. Oh, it wasn't. Don't put me in that spot. We have millions of viewers, and I don't want to alienate anyone. But I don't say anything. I mean, I just sit back and I think, man, I hope I was never that dad. I'm sure I was at some point. But I'm like, man, just let these kids be, because the kids, I guarantee you, if the two dads are talking about it, the dad is talking to his kid about it, right? And all you're doing is adding fuel to that fire after the fact. So I tell that story because yesterday I took my older son, Colin, he's a junior, and we went for a college visit at Hardin-Simmons. The tour guide was a freshman at Hardin-Simmons. And it was so good because this kid had not a care in the world. And he was taking us around, and it was a group tour. And he asked Colin, he's like, hey, you're pretty tall. Are you playing sports here? And Colin's like, well, yeah, I'm a baseball player. And he said, he's like, oh, yeah, I can't play sports, but he was joking about it, but he was like, but I'll tell you what, he said, I'm a business major. And he was like, this is the college life, bro. Like I go to class for 2 or 3 hours a day. And then I do a Bible study on the side here, and I go do this service stuff over here. And that kid could not have been happier with his life. And I thought to myself, man, how great is this?
Yeah.
He's going to graduate. He was telling me all about his plans, and he's going to graduate with a master's degree in 5 years, basically. And what his plans were, and he's loving life.
Yeah.
And then you look over and you see these kids that are 9 years old that are playing in these sports, and they're just like holding on and gripping so tight because they're afraid to disappoint dad. And I'm like, if I could just show you the future of a kid like this who's in college and he's going to be successful because of his personality. Yeah. This kid told me, by the way, he got selected to go kick at halftime of a football game for free canes for a year and made it. Yeah.
He loved his life.
Yeah. He's living his best college life. So anyway, just a couple different scenarios there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the American model has just taken on a life of its own. And we are trying to keep up with the Joneses so much, and we're trying to pave these pathways for our kids to be successful. Yeah. And so in our next episode, we're going to look at ways that other people do it that maybe take some pressure off.
Yeah. Yeah. And let me specifically say this. Again, we can't say enough how we're not against select sports, but I think that you mentioned something that is worth repeating. You said if I can show you this kid, if I can show you that 9-year-old in about 10 more years, right? Or 12 more years or 15 more years, like moms and dads, like look at your kid, whether they are playing sports or not. And just think about this. Again, winning with the home team, like we want your family unit to win. Look at them and just remember that the next 6 or 7 years, that is only a fraction of their life.
Yeah.
And if you guys are so consumed in the play of how they're doing, and if you're putting all of your proud mom and dad eggs in one basket, and that's the sports basket, you are missing so many more opportunities. Namely pointing your kid to Christ.
Yeah.
Making sure that they have the fundamental knowledge that Jesus loves them and has a plan for their life. And so remember, youth sports is only a fraction of their lives.
Yeah.
I think that was really good with what you said. Think
Yeah.
about the next 10 years, 12 years, 15 years. Their adult lives are way more than what you're currently worried about right now in terms of youth sports.
Yeah. Most of the time that we spend with our children as they grow up happens before they get to high school.
Yeah.
Once they get to high school, I mean, it's the road out at that point. So you have only that amount of time to pour into them. So much.
Yeah.
Not that it's over when they get to high school, but you have such an acute time period there to do something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for listening to episode 40 with Winning with the Home Team. Listen, we want families to win. That's the bottom line. And I think youth sports is a part of that, but it cannot be the complete picture. So check us out online. If you haven't connected with us yet on the socials, be sure to hit us up. And we'll talk to you guys later. Man, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed hearing us ramble about youth sports or other strangely interesting sports topics related to families, please go and like and subscribe to the show so that you can get regular updates when a new podcast is released. We'd also love to connect with you. Head on over to our socials. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We're under LC Sports and Recreation.
And if you're new to our podcast, go check out some of our previous episodes on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. There's some good stuff on there. And pay attention because these come out pretty quickly, weekly, as a matter of fact. And you're going to learn a lot about what we have to say with regards to our league and how to win with the home team.